11. Never trust gargoyles. Really. Don't. Few things in life are as nerve-wracking as heading off to meet, for the first time, the parents of someone who, although a boy, has become one of your best friends in the whole world. But the fates must have really had it in for Maya Davidson, because on top of the meeting a nice boy's parents for the first time worries, they had decided to toss in the following further complications. His parents were Bulgarian. They ran an embassy in Paris. They had just announced they wanted to send Valko back to Bulgaria because he wasn't Bulgarian enough, and being friends with Maya was certainly not helping him to be more Bulgarian. The dinner was going to be a formal embassy banquet, probably involving hundreds of mysterious little forks and spoons that Maya would not know how to use. And finally, it just so happened that another 137 hours would be elapsing at 6 p.m. this evening, and that meant the laws of physics would be slightly suspended in highly unpredictable ways, at more or less the same time as Maya was about to start reaching for the mysterious little forks she didn't know how to use. Maya's mother didn't know about the spreading strangeness, of course, but because she knew or guessed most of the other items on this list, and because she was on an intense and obvious campaign to keep Maya from worrying so much about everything, she had been trying for several days to be especially kind and reassuring, and that, for some reason, had made Maya feel even more anxious. Basically, thought Maya as she raced to get into her fancy clothes on Monday after school, no one in the long history of dinner invitations had ever been more full of twitchy, itchy nervousness than she was right now. She pulled the comb through her nondescript brown hair and put on her party shoes. But when she dropped a barrette on the floor, she caught a glimpse of the summer box under her bed, and before she knew it, the gargoyle's egg was cradled in her hands. The warmth of it was so comforting. There was a new word inscribed on it, she noticed. Now what did that say? Valko would know. She emptied all her school books out of her backpack and popped the egg in instead, wrapped in an extra sweater just in case it got especially cold by the time they were walking back home. "You look lovely," said her mother, as Maya spun around for a quick inspection in the living room. "Don't forget your scarf and gloves. It's cold tonight. Look, I've got some nice flowers right here, ready to go." Somehow she made it out of that apartment. The sun was setting as she trotted across the Avenue Bosquet, feeling foolish with the bouquet of flowers in her gloved hands. Flowers, odd number only, shake hands firmly, eye contact. She was remembering all the rules for meeting parents from Bulgaria. Oh, and it was 5 p.m. already. 136 hours gone, 1 to go, if the strangeness hadn't evaporated into nothing and spontaneously gone away. The dinner invitation was for 7 p.m., but Valko had said to come earlier, as early as she could manage, before anything odd had had time to happen. He was thinking of the shadow wandering the streets, Maya could tell. He didn't want her out there alone with the shadowy Fourquois if another wave of strangeness struck in the neighborhood. In fact, he was at the embassy entrance, waiting for her. "You'll have to put those flowers through Ivan's machine," he said with a grin. "I hope they fit." It was one of those conveyor belt X-ray machines, just like the airport versions, only smaller. Ivan wasn't quite as beefy as you'd think a security guy would have to be, but he still would have looked pretty intimidating if he hadn't been joking the whole time with Valko in Bulgarian. Maya balanced on one foot and then another, waiting for the flowers and her backpack to emerge. The egg set off no alarms. "Your coat's warm, right?" said Valko, and he swung a couple of sodas into sight as temptation. "Want a nice view? Follow me." There were a couple of very grand flights of stairs, and then some more stairs, less grand, and then a stairwell that looked like it wouldn't have been out of place in a tubing factory, and then Valko pushed open an old door, and they were on the roof. "Oh," said Maya. It was so beautiful. The sunset was still just enough in progress that the sky was the color of a ripe nectarine, and the Eiffel Tower loomed up over the buildings on the other side of the street. The roof itself had a lot of wires and satellite dishes and who knows what sort of contraptions cluttering it up, but there was a low barrier around the edge, so it didn't seem completely perilous. The trees in the Bulgarians' private garden pushed up above the roofline of the building on their left. And there, across the roof, were a couple of figures too small and too still to be human. Maya gripped Valko's arm. "They're here," she said, and her voice squeaked a little as she said it. "You didn't tell me they were back. Why didn't you tell me?" The gargoyles stared stiffly ahead, right at them. "I haven't been up here in ages," said Valko. "I wonder how those things got here." "Flu, I guess," said Maya. She did not like being stared at by stone creatures. Valko hesitated at her side. Neither of them seemed to know quite how frightened they should be, here under the gaze of those so very still eyes. Finally, Valko squared his shoulders and flashed a half-smile in Maya's direction, his eyes catching fire just a little in the last remnants of the sunset. "They're only statues. Someone must have lugged them up the stairs. Come on. It's a chance to get a really good look, finally." They picked their way across the rooftop, and the gargoyles stonily watched them come. "So the question is, how'd someone get these here without anyone noticing?" said Valko. That wasn't the question at all, from Maya's perspective. What she wanted to know was what they were up to, and whether they were evil, and what the heck gargoyles had to do with Bulgaria, and why they seemed to do all their moving around in one high-speed burst in the middle of the night. No, none of that was the first thing she wanted to know. The first thing she wanted to know was why exactly they had given her the beautiful egg. She really wanted to know that, but it's hard to get answers from a creature carved out of stone. "I'm still curious about what they're made of, too," said Valko, dropping the sodas to fumble around in his pockets for a moment. "I could try scraping a little sample off with my knife. See if it's that fake plastery stuff they use for decorations sometimes. That would be easy to lug across Paris." "Wait, what are you doing?" said Maya. It made her nervous, seeing Valko walk right up close to those staring gargoyles with his Swiss Army knife in his hand. In fact, it made her nervous in two ways at once. For Valko, whose little knife was really very small compared to the statues watching him approach, and for the gargoyles because, knives? Knives are sharp. Nobody wants somebody poking at them with knives. Maybe even a gargoyle made of stone wouldn't want knives coming his way. "Valko, don't!" she said. Couldn't he feel it? That crackle in the air around the gargoyles' staring, monstrous, mishmashy heads? It was the smell of rocks beginning to lose their temper. It was the invisible sharpness in the air, right before a mountain gives way and becomes boulders and talus, screaming down the slope. She was just reaching forward to haul him safely back when the world exploded. Din and dust, the harsh clatter of stone wings, rubble, pebbles, boulders, rocks. And there, in the middle of all that noise, a human gasp, "Valko!" And then silence again, instantly. The mountain had fallen, and everything was different. Valko was staring up at her from the rooftop with wide, horrified eyes, but he could not move, because around his neck was folded a stony and inflexible wing, and a stone talon gripped Valko's right arm, and Valko's fingers splayed out a little under the pressure of all that stone, and on the ground beside him, looking very weak and small and ridiculous, was his red pocket-knife. "Maya, go!" said Valko to Maya. He could only croak it, because the wing was too close around his throat. It was horrible, seeing that stone wing pinning him so tightly and so awkwardly to the ground and to the gargoyle behind him. The gargoyle was the one she had been calling Beakface. She could see that now, with its sharp, cruel stone nose. The other gargoyle was frozen just behind, a look of anger or horror or shock carved into the stone of its face. It all made Maya very, very mad. She was instantly almost drowning in fury, to tell the truth. She jumped forward and pounded on the gargoyle's back, but being very careful not to pound on the places that might jar Valko trapped beneath. "Let him go," she said, so mad that every word of hers was huge and wild and loud. "Don't you even know who I am? Don't you know what I have?" She leaped back a pace, opened her backpack, and pulled it out, the gargoyle's beautiful, lovely, wonderful egg. Another explosion, rocks and wings and motion and noise. And then that sudden stillness again. On the school playground when Maya was very little, the kids used to play a game called red light, green light. Run for green, freeze for red. This was a little like that. But no child on a playground ever froze as convincingly as these gargoyles froze. They were the world champion stars of not moving. And now they were both using all of their incredible not-moving skills to gaze straight at Maya and at the stone egg, humming with warmth, in her hand. Valko was climbing to his feet again, over a little on Maya's left. He was trying to say something, but mostly all he could do was cough. But the gargoyles had let him go. Good, thought Maya, but she didn't move her head to look at Valko. She was staring down at those stone gargoyles with all the force she could muster. She jogged the egg up and down in her hand a little, just to give him something to think about. You listen to me, she said to the gargoyles. See this pretty egg? If you want it to stay safe, you know what? You have to leave us alone. Go home to whatever stupid cathedral you came from. Go away, go home, goodbye. Valko, are you okay? It's like something fell on me, said Valko. Still stunned, it sounded like. I think something heavy. Let's get out of here. Good idea. Maya took a step backward, but she kept her eyes on those gargoyles. And don't keep exploding like that, she said to them. You've got to slow down. Act normal. Okay, that's it. Did you just tell a couple of statues to slow down? Said Valko. That was more like his ordinary self, so that was good. When they move fast, right? It's like they're movies playing themselves at the wrong speed, which I don't like. That was for the gargoyles again. Now we're really leaving. Come on, Valko. Remember, I have the egg, and leave us alone. They had gotten almost as far as the staircase door when there was another, slightly slower eruption of stone and noise. Valko gave a horrified yelp. This time Maya could make more sense of what she was seeing. Beakface and Bonnethead leaning close together, consulting. Some waving around of claws, then Beakface coming forward. All that took place in a second or two. But suddenly, as the gargoyle walked toward Maya, it was like a film running out of power. The speed dropped, kept dropping, until he was hardly moving at all. "Ma," said the gargoyle, in the rumbling, ghastly tones of a tape being run at the slowest possible speed. Valko yanked on Maya's arm. "Come on," he said. He had a point, but Maya couldn't help herself. She was fantastically, overwhelmingly curious. And a stone wing had not just been wrapped around her throat, which she could see might make a difference in how a person felt about stone gargoyles moving toward her and making almost word-like noises. Wait, word-like? Hang on a sec, she said. I think it's trying to... Yeah, said the gargoyle. Yes, it said. A stone gargoyle was speaking to them. Maya, 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 Zdrasti, bonsoir, hello, go away, egg, keep it safe, no, ah. The creature turned his ugly face back to Bonnethead and made some clattering noises in her direction. Bonnethead waddled forward a little, her wings sketching anxious little ringing gestures in the air. Dear, said Bonnethead, a sandy landslide of a word, all kind concern. Maya felt an instant and surprising burst of affection for Bonnethead. But statues aren't supposed to talk, said Valko's faint voice behind her. They don't move, they don't talk, they don't grab people and strangle them. He's right, said Beakface. Stone doesn't speak, doesn't move at all. No. Normally, corrected the other one, Bonnethead. But the bad man ruined us with his loophole. He did. They seemed to be very quick learners, these gargoyles. Their words were already sounding much more like actual words, and much less like a mountain giving way under your feet. "Yes," said Big-Face. When he scowled, his whole cobbled-together body seemed to twist in on itself. It looked painful. "We need to get out of here," said Valco from somewhere behind Maya. "We really need to get out of here, now." "What do you mean, ruined you with his loophole?" said Maya. She put her free hand on her hips to keep herself feeling tough. Valco made a not very coherent protesting sound and tugged at her jacket. "Bad man," said Big-Face, still twisted into that whole body scowl. "Digs into what is and makes his big loophole so he can go on living." "Loophole?" said Maya. It seemed a strange word for a gargoyle to use. "Like a way of cheating?" "Cheating," said Big-Face. "Yes. Also, hole in a wall. It can mean that, too. Bad hole that opens in a good stone wall. Things climb through loopholes. Magic things that should not be. Not just what is, but everything that could be." "Like us," said Bonnethead. "A block of stone, yes? May not just be a block of stone. May also possibly be a box of gargoyles. Ugh." "Ugh is right," said Valco from behind Maya's back. "Really, let's go." Maya said, "You were made from the wall?" "A translation," said Bonnethead with gusto. "Translation?" Maya must have looked puzzled. "Nice, silent stone," Bonnethead explained. "Translated into gargoyles. Is it a word you don't know? It means changing things, yes? From one form to another, you know. From stone into gargoyles. And he got right into us, too, the bad man. Put his memories there, and his strange words, and his spells. We translated those too, of course, into what's it called? What you quick little people speak back where we were quarried," said Big-Face. "Bulgarian," said Bonnethead, and she gave a great gargoylean shudder. "Maybe it changes his spells somehow. Nothing stays exactly the same when it's translated. Have you noticed that, dear? It is the same and also not the same. Au revoir is not quite exactly the same as your English goodbye. No. So the bad man binds us to do what he says. He binds us in French. We translate his bad magic into something same but different, into Bulgarian. We hope it will help the same but different." "Wiggle room," said Maya. All three sets of eyes stared at her then, 2 pairs in brooding stone, 1 pair a puzzled human gray, like finding little loopholes in his big loophole. "Like that," said Bonnethead, rather fondly, it seemed to Maya. "For example, he must consume someone to live again. He says. We translate into Bulgarian, and the magic shifts a little. Not just munch up some poor girl with magic in her blood. No, we translate that. To live, he must feast on the heart of what do you call them in English? Magical beings, you know, like you and not like you. Powerful, maybe wicked, maybe good. It hurts, all this horrible thinking." "Stones should never think," said Big-Face. It was a gravelly grumble. "Now we have to think all the time. Think his thoughts, speak his words, do his work." Maya's heart fell. This part sounded like very bad news. "His work?" said Maya. "Fourquois? His work? So why should I trust you at all, then?" The gargoyles looked at each other, looked at Maya, frowning with every square inch of their monstrous stone heads. "You should not," said Bonnet Head. "No kidding," said Valco. "No, never trust us. We did spit ourselves out of the wall, true, and spit out the egg, the memory stone, always spitting out his memories, the poison of him, and translating his rules and his magic wherever we can, putting the little loopholes in, but it is never enough. And you too, dear, you also cannot be trusted, can you?" Maya's heart was pounding like a drum. She backed up a step, and then another step. "Believe us, quick little warm-running child. He will eat you up, that bad man, for another little blink of life. He already eats you up. Beware of him." "Maya," said Valco, interrupting, "look!" The sky had deepened way beyond Nectarine by now. The sky was dark, but this being Paris, many other lights had come flickering on. Lit windows in buildings across the way, the signs advertising cafes and restaurants along the street, the pulsating green neon sign of a pharmacy a block away, and above the crazy tumult of city life, the Eiffel Tower, which had been glowing all creamy and gold, had suddenly started to sparkle. "But that means," said Maya. She stretched her free hand out toward the beauty of it. The tower was programmed to sparkle every hour on the hour. 6 o'clock already? She looked around. For less than a second she didn't feel anything. She even thought, maybe it has really just gone away. That, of course, was the moment the wave of strangeness sloshed right over her, the tingle of it racing up and down her outstretched arm and making her feel just the slightest bit sick, an itchy, electric sort of queasiness, as if she were about to outgrow her ordinary, everyday skin. Growing. Things growing. Something was beginning to happen to the flowers in the bouquet. The gargoyles were clattering at each other. Valco had his hand clamped tight on her arm. The egg was huddled safely in that hand. The egg! She didn't want magic messing with that egg. It was strange enough on its own. "Don't you change," she told it firmly. And she tried to hold on to her own self, too, so restless and twitchy inside her skin. "Oh, no," said Valco, looking up over her head at the Eiffel Tower. Maya looked, too. The sparkles had started in the usual way, bright popping flashes, like manic fireflies or paparazzi. But something was happening now to the tower itself. Dark blotches spread out from its usually crisp sides. The sparkling lights faltered, flickered, and then everything, neighborhood, embassy, neon signs, and tower, went completely dark. Maya could feel the ground trembling faintly far below. "What did I just do?" she thought. It was a peculiar sort of thought. She tried to shake it right back out of her head. "Big loophole getting bigger. Bad man," said a gargoyle sadly in the dark. "You okay?" said Valco, not very far from Maya's ear. "They'll have the generator going in a second." "The tower," she said. "The poor tower. What's happening to it, do you think?" Forest. Trees. What was her mind doing, anyway? It was as bad as the gargoyle's egg, feeding her pictures like that. "Don't know," said Valco. "Look what I found in your backpack, though. Coming in handy already, huh?" He had dug out that flashlight he'd given her. It had remained its old cobalt self, thank goodness. The little circle of brightness was ordinary and comforting. Valco sent the patch of light flicking all around them. The flowers, the satellite dishes, the waiting gargoyles. Everything was there. Everything was still there. The flowers looked different, though, more complicated than they had been. Maya shifted her outstretched arm around until she felt a gargoyle's stony shoulder, or wing, under her fingers. "Tell me, how can we stop this?" she said. They had called it a loophole. That was a funny way to describe a spreading tide of magic, wasn't it? But Forcoy had needed a loophole to keep on living. That's what they had said. Maybe he hadn't known how awful that loophole would be, how it would grow and grow and grow. The gargoyles sighed raspily and shifted from claw to claw. "Hard," said Beakface. "Stop the one who started it," added Bonnethead, a bit farther away in the dark. "What more can you do?" Valco made a very impatient noise. "Well, for starters," he said, "seems to me pretty obvious. You take the stupid egg, which is full of evil Forcoy's evil downloaded memories, if I'm understanding what these walking, talking statues are saying. And I still don't see how they're doing it, the walking and talking. It doesn't make any sense at all. And you tumble that stupid egg over the edge of the roof here, and you let it go smash. That's the sensible thing to do." There was some gravelly clamor from the gargoyles. "She has to keep it safe, and she must take care of it." Maya turned to look at Valco. "You don't understand," said Maya. He really didn't. "I can't do that. I have to keep it safe. I do." "Because keeping a stone egg full of some bad guy's mind is a good idea? Or just because that's Forcoy's master plan and he's already got you totally trapped?" "Don't you see? Yes, and yes." She took a deep breath and said it aloud. "I'm pretty sure it's both." "Yes," said the gargoyles, off there in the gloom. "Are you kidding me?" said Valco. "It's not just his egg," said Maya. "It's theirs." "Yes," murmured the gargoyles. "And that makes things better how?" said Valco. "They're monsters. They're working for him. They nearly strangled me. Oh, I know, don't tell me. They were scared of my very scary knife, even though it's teeny tiny and they're made of stone." There was a pause while Maya just stood there being stubborn and wishing she could find the words to describe how she felt about stone eggs and gargoyles. It was hard to explain to Valco because it wasn't totally logical. It was a feeling. It was a hunch. It was complicated. Maybe it was even another illusion, and the dominoes were still tumbling in their neat little clockwork rows, clickety-clickety-click. Valco broke the silence with a laugh. He could do that. Turn some easy corner and go from worry to laughter. Dark thoughts just couldn't stick to him. "Oh, forget it. Let's go. We'll be late for dinner, and then my mother will be mad, and things will get really scary." Maya had already rolled the egg up safe in her extra sweater and stuffed the thing back into her backpack. She was ready to follow the flashlight's nice ordinary light back toward the stairway door. But first she did whisper goodbye in the direction of the gargoyles. Maybe they heard it, and maybe they didn't. They were being very still again in the darkness. They were back to behaving like stone. They made no sound. Maya was thinking about gargoyles and thinking about Valco. Valco didn't understand about the egg, but that wasn't his fault. He wasn't used to things depending so much on him, probably. But the way he glared at those gargoyles, it was the way other people sometimes glared into the mirror on a bad morning. Yes, thought Maya, into the mirror. Because think about it, right? Quarried in one place and hauled off to another. Part this, part that, part something else. Always translating, always out of place. Maybe being a Valco, or for that matter, even being a Maya, was not so entirely different after all, thought Maya as she followed the flashlight's beam down the embassy stairs, from being a gargoyle.